Good morning guys, Chris and the Ultimate Recycler. Welcome back to the channel. It's an overcast day here today. It's coolish. We're at the end of summer. Actually, we're in autumn or fall, as some of you know it. Heading into winter. I'm looking forward to the cooler weather to get some more stuff done outside. Today, we're going to go and have a look at the van. So walk with me. We'll go and check out what's in the van. Okay, this is going to be a recycling or scrapping video. We've basically rescued some stuff that was headed to the tip, and I'm going to see what value we get out of it. Now, I pick up stuff from the local op shop all the time, and they're based in the front of the local hall, and the op shop raises funds for the hall, and they call me down to pick up e-waste all the time because they can't sell it, they can't test it, and they don't want to throw it out. So we have a good relationship. They give me e-waste and I process it and keep it out of landfill. The hall replaced the main lights about a week or two ago, and these were sort of just dropped out the back of the yard behind the hall, and they were going to be essentially just taken to the tip. I presume they would have put them in the either the e-waste crates or in the scrap metal pile, but either way, we'll see what value we can get out of them. I will save the chain. That will be useful. The baffles in here are aluminium, so we'll keep that separately. We should be able to weigh up how much aluminium we get. The actual cases I'll probably take back out to the transfer station to the scrap metal pile when I've finished. The tubes, they do have, I think these are old fluorescent tubes. They do have a box out at the transfer station, especially for the recycling of fluorescent tubes. So I'll make sure all the stuff gets put in the right place. But we'll get a bit of value out of it for the wire and for the ballasts or the transformers that are in there. So I thought we'd scrap them out, see how long it takes us, see what sort of value we get, and at least I'll know it all gets processed properly. Now, the guy that showed me where they were said, oh, they've chopped all the cords off them already. And I thought, oh, that's a bugger, because they used to hang from the ceiling. And I said, what happened to the cords? Oh, we put them in the rubbish bin for landfill. So I opened the lids and dragged out all the cords, because as most scrappers know, there's pretty good value in just the cords for selling for scrap. In the other bins was a huge pile of old records, and they said, oh, help yourself, we couldn't sell them. So and I can understand their dilemma. They work out of the front of the hall, they don't have any storage space, and they do have to keep rotating their stock. So anything that's been there for a while, unfortunately, just has to get dumped. You know, they had them down to 50 cents each. They sold some, but all the rest of them... Look, there's nothing good in here, I wouldn't imagine. Barry Crocker. So, you know, they had to get rid of them, and they just put them all in the basically the red bin for landfill. So there's a stack of them in the back of the van as well. So I'll take them back to the shop. We might just go $1 each, which is actually more expensive. But at least we have a bit of room that we can put them in milk crates and customers can pick through them. If we make a bit of extra dollar, well, great. Hopefully we can rehome some of them rather than throwing them out. And I did a video once, years ago, on melting records into bowls in the hot sun, and I could sell the bowls at $5 each. Now, I don't have time to do that anymore, but I'll try and save them from going to the tip. So in this video, we'll get these lights out, we'll process them, we'll see what sort of value we get. And also in the back of the van are even more records, some old Frypans, which will go on my aluminium pile, and a couple of ceiling fans that also came out of the hall. So we're going to get some electric motors out of those. The blades are actually steel on these ones, so they can just go into the pressing steel pile, and same with the actual hangers. So we'll get some electric motors, we'll get some pressing steel, got a little bit of aluminium, and we've got, yeah, a bit of electrical stuff out of those lights. Okay, just for interest's sake, let's start with the Frypans. I wasn't going to include these, but how many of you guys that go scrapping, particularly street scrapping, how many of you do actually pick up aluminium Frypans, and is there much value? Well, certainly take your magnet with you. Some of them, like this one, are all aluminium, except you obviously can't sell it with that handle, and there's a chance that the little stud in there could be a steel. I can't pick it up with the magnet yet, but if you threw that in just as it is to the scrapyard, they would take it as irony aluminium or dirty aluminium because of the handle. So let's just weigh them all up as that first. We'll go through them. This one feels pretty heavy, but it's not magnetic. It will be in aluminium. and same with the base, always check the base. But the handle, the rivets are steel. The handle itself appears to be magnetic. So again, for that to go as clean aluminium, you would have to take the handle off, which I think we will do because this one's quite heavy. But as it is, irony aluminium. The last one here is extremely light. There's absolutely no... Oh, we have steel rivets again. So same deal with that one. I thought I had another one with a magnetic base. Now, I obviously left it behind. Always check the bases because some of them are designed to go on an induction cooktop and they have a steel plate embedded in the aluminium, and you will notice it because it's magnetic. Now, you can't use anything on an induction cooktop unless it's magnetic. So they often put a steel plate in the bottom of these aluminium fry pans, which you're not going to be able to get out. So if you find one with a magnetic base, don't even worry about taking the handle off. Just throw it straight into irony aluminium as it is. You can, if you belt the thing with a sledgehammer for 15 minutes, you can actually break the base out. I have tried it, but in no way is it worth your while. So any fry pans with a magnetic base, put straight in irony aluminium. But these three, I think it's worth taking the handles off. Anyway, let's weigh them up as they are and see what they weigh. We have just over 3 kilos, and irony aluminium at the moment is about 70 cents a kilo at my yard, so 3 kilos. We're looking at about $2, $2.10 just for those three fry pans thrown straight in as they are. So $2, I reckon it's worthwhile actually, because they would add up pretty quickly. I mean, people pick up bottles and cans for 10 cents each. These are basically, what have we got? Three, we got... So they're probably 60 to, or say 70 cents each on average. Obviously the lighter one isn't worth as much as the heavier one. I'm going to break the handles off these. Some of them you can just unscrew. Sometimes the screw is very corroded like that one is. Sometimes they rust up in the actual threaded part. Probably just as easy to take them out with the sledgehammer, give them a really good belt right on the edge there, and they generally break off pretty easily. The ones with rivets, it's probably the quickest is probably just to grind the rivets off with your grinder. They do take a little bit of effort, of course, and if you've got a really light one, I probably wouldn't worry. I'd probably just throw it into irony aluminium. This one perhaps is a contender for that. Depends how much time you got on up your sleeve. You know, it's 3 rivets to grind off. Let's do one, but you probably won't add a great deal to the value. Let's just see what this works out at. We've got, so 0.7 of a kilo by about 70 cents is about 49, let's say 50 cents as it is. Let's take the handle off. So there you go, not too hard to take the handle off. The rivets are aluminium, so it doesn't matter if they stay in there. Let's weigh that one up. We've lost a lot of its weight. We've got half a kilo. So half a kilo of now clean aluminium. I just checked the price and it's about $2 a kilo for domestic aluminium at the moment. So half a kilo is around about $1. So we have increased our value with a little bit of quick cutting off of the handle. That can probably just go in your shred steel. It's mostly plastic, so we're not going to allow any value to that. So we've increased this to $1, but that was a fairly light one. So this one's much heavier. What did we have here? We had a totally steel handle, and the rivets are probably aluminium. Let's grind this one off. So those rivets definitely weren't aluminium, but we've ground them back. You should be able to belt this handle off pretty easily now. Perhaps on the anvil, the bench is a bit wobbly. Okay, I had to lay into this with the sledgehammer outside. They were pretty strong rivets, but I think it only took a couple of hits in the right place. So again, we have a handle that could probably go in your shred steel. I'm not going to write down any value for that. The fry pan itself is quite a heavy one. It's very thick and it weighs 1.5 kilos. So there's about $3. So I think we've increased our value a lot with that one. So we're at about $3.50. The last one's incredibly light, but I think it'll just be one hit. I'll go and do that now. So yep, just one hit. The handle is pretty well all plastic, so just rubbish for that. A little bit of extruded aluminium on that sleeve and another piece of clean. So what does our clean weigh now? Just over 2.5 kilos. So that's for about $5. It doesn't take long, it does add up pretty quickly. I tend to do that with most of these unless they're super light ones. All right, let's get on to the fans next. Since I can't fit the fan in my workshop with the blades on, I'll take the blades off outside. Very quick process, and we'll save the hardware as usual. Okay, these are quite old or vintage ceiling fans. They're a Wattmaster, but they're quite heavy, so we're going to get good paying motors out of them. So we just need to get the main drop shaft out. And we're also going to have some extra wiring down through the shaft. Now we'll take this cover off. More hardware. The fry pans are good for holding hardware. Right, plastic cover. So we just have a bolt with a split pin through it to remove the shaft. Let's bring you in a little bit closer. So if we straighten up that split pin, we can then undo that nut. And the bolt's probably threaded through as well. Oh, it's got a Phillips head slot in it too. More hardware. Now our main pole can come out and we have wiring inside that, which is great. And that's a fairly heavy pole that can go with our other pressing steel. It's almost heavy enough to go in with a heavy melt steel. Right, let's prune the wiring back. There we go. Now, it could go as an electric... Oh, there's some decorations here from some festivities in the hall many years ago. They can just stay there. We could take the little connector block off if we wanted to. There's a little bit more wiring we could probably clip out. We may as well do that. So that can go as an electric motor and it's quite heavy. I'll get the other one done and we'll weigh them up. Okay, second motor done. Let's weigh them up. One would assume they'll be the same weight. We have almost 5.5 kilos. Let's just weigh the other one just to be sure. Yeah, around about the same. So let's say 10 kilos for the motors. Some of you may have noticed there's a date on them, 1986. I would have thought they'd be a bit older than that. But anyway, 10 kilos of electric motors. I think it's over $1 a kilo at the moment, but let's just say $1 a kilo for ease of calculations. $10 worth of motors. Fantastic. We have some extra wire here, which will weigh up when we get the cords out of the van as well. So the fans were easy and well worth doing. We do have some pressing steel, which I'll weigh up at the end for those of you that sell the pressing steel. I sometimes save it, and I'll probably save these blades because they stack nice and neatly. If I do a load to Melbourne in the van, remembering it's a pretty big trip for me, I don't want to have a whole heap of lightweight stuff that fills the van. But when I get a load that I can box up and it does stay, fairly compact, there's 5 kilos in those blades. So I'll probably put them in a crate where I've got some pressing steel, and I will do a load to the scrapyard at some stage. Same with these poles, because they stack nice and flat, I'll probably hang on to those. So we'll weigh up all the pressing steel at the end. For those of you that sell it all, I probably won't sell the light assemblies. I'm just not too sure on that. So let's get on to these light fittings. It's going to be the bulk of the scrap. They're pretty long. I guess they're a standard fluoro length. First thing I'm going to do is take these hanging chains off, because I think that's got some value, better than scrap. So if we bend these links, we can unhook them from the frame. And the same with the other end. So we'll gather all those chains up and work out what we're going to do with them at the end. We should be able to take the fluoro lights out from this end, or the fluoro tubes, I should say. Oh, I don't know if they're designed to come out from the back. I think they're supposed to come out from the other side. All right, let's roll it over. Now these aluminium baffles will have to come out, and I think the sides are aluminium as well. They're certainly non-magnetic, it's only the ends that are magnetic. So that's good, more aluminium for us. It's going to be fairly thin. Now, I would imagine the baffle's got to lift out, because you should be able to change the globes easily. Yeah, I think they're just on clips. There we go. Unplugs with a bit of a clatter. This would have been very awkward to do up on top of a high ladder in the hall. Whoops, we've got a wire attached this end. I don't think that's supposed to happen. Oh no, it's come off. I'd hooked around a bit of chain in there. Alright, so those baffles should knock apart okay. We've got a latch thing and obviously a metal plate there. I think that will be steel. Yes, it is. And that bracket thing is steel. But the rest of it appears to be aluminium. So I'll take those apart in a minute. We might leave that till the end. We'll pull the ballasts out. We've got two big old ballasts in here. And there's some fluoro starters, and there's a fair bit of wiring and a big capacitor. But we now will be able to take the tubes out. And I'll put them somewhere where they won't break. Now I think all these components unscrew from the other side. The main frame here is going to be steel. The end panels are steel, but all the sides are aluminium. And I think we do have little screws here, so it should come apart pretty easily. Let's undo the screws from one end. They're pretty tight. We'll just give them a bit of a hit to jar them. They'll be self-tappers, and a little bit of a hit on the end of the screw should free up the thread. Yep, makes a world of difference. So I think these side panels are probably extruded aluminium, which is great. It pays better than normal domestic. Okay, that's got all that undone. And if we snip these wires, it looks like we actually have, oh, there we go. That's the steel panel. We do have some more aluminium here, and those fittings are riveted on. And it's so light that I'm not going to worry about trying to take those off. They can go straight in with our irony aluminium. We've got lots of good wiring here. So you can see it's pretty easy to take this end assembly apart. We'll do the same with the other end, and then we can turn this part over and undo the ballasts. That's got these side panels off, and these are great. They actually are fairly thick. They're very long. They're definitely extruded, and they weigh quite a bit. So all the lights are going to add up to quite a fair bit of extruded aluminium, which is really good. It'll help our bottom line. Okay, now we have the main body left, and we have flathead screws with nuts on the back of everything here. They shouldn't take too much to undo. I think once we start them, they'll undo just with fingers. Let's get a better screwdriver. And I think we might be better to undo them from this side, maybe with some pliers. Once we start them, they should just spin off, basically. And pull off the terminals of the capacitor. If the lights had been powered on recently, you would need to short out that just to make sure that there's no power in it, because capacitors can hold charge. I'll clip the plugs off here, because we don't want any plugs on our wire. There's also an earth with some brass hardware, and that will spin off easily. Okay, we'll get onto this nut with the pliers. And once they're loosened off, they do undo very easily. Our capacitor can just go in the irony aluminium bin. I'll snip the wires on the ballast, and again just loosen the screw or the nut, and once we get it loose, we can spin it off. And the ballasts are very heavy, so that'll add up to some good weight for us as well. So that's the process. We obviously have plenty of good wire. That's a little aluminium strip. So I'll strip out the rest of this, we'll do all the others, and then we'll weigh up what we've got, but they don't take long to pull apart. Now some of the lights have these Bakelite junction boxes. Oh, I think it's supposed to unscrew. Yep, it's pretty tight. Which I'm going to save these. I do sell a lot of Bakelite fittings at the shop. So we will just undo the terminals here so we can pull the wires through. And there's the remains of the wire, the input wires, which they just cut off when they removed them from the ceiling of the hall. So I'll take those out. And back these screws right out so we can pull the other wires through. And we have a couple of self-tapping screws that hold this fitting on. So we will, still a bit tight. There we go. We'll give it a wash up and we'll save those. Not all these lights have them, but I think we're going to get 3 or 4 of them. And then we can get the rest of our wire out. Okay, the other thing is the starters. I'll take the starters out and just throw them straight into my e-waste bucket, but I'm going to leave the mounting things for them. There's not much point taking those out as well. So this can now go in our shred steel, and that's finished this one. Let's do all the rest and we'll see how all the goodies accumulate. We've finished with all the light assemblies, so now I'm just going to take apart these diffusers or whatever they are. They're mostly aluminium. If we take this flat bracket out of each end, I reckon they'll pretty much fall apart. Okay, so that bracket's definitely all steel. We have a little bit of chain hooked into these. But how do they come apart otherwise? I think if we flex that in, they'll just, oh, they've got little steel retainers. Okay, how do I grab these out? Yeah, little spring steel rods in here, and then they just fall out the bottom. So that's easy. We'll take these steel spring pieces out, and we will have to take the chain off it. And beautiful. It won't take long to do all these. And squeeze it together. How easy is that? And we can probably just squash this one too. It's quite thin gauge, this stuff. So I think I'll just stand on these and then I'll make them easier to stack. Okay guys, let's wrap up this video and see just how much value we did get from going to the op shop to pick up e-waste, and we got all this extra stuff. The e-waste is still in the van and the records are still in the vans. But as far as the scrap goes, let's see how we did. First of all, here's our shred steel. It all packed quite neatly, so I think I'll hang on to this and just stack it aside, and I will do a load to the yard at some stage. There's quite a bit of weight in all the bits and pieces. It worked out about $7 worth of shred steel, so, or pressing steel or light gauge, whatever you want to call it. So that's the start of it. And now we move on to the better stuff. We've got a box of insulated wire there, and that includes what we got off the fans as well, and all the cut-off cords that I pulled out of the red bin, sorry, the tip bin. We have domestic aluminium. We have extruded aluminium, which these panels actually added up to quite a lot of weight. And the diffusers that I pulled apart, these ones are actually extruded as well, and they stack very neatly, and that little group of them weighs 4 kilos on its own. There's our irony aluminium, or our dirty aluminium. All this front stuff goes as domestic, along with the fry pans. A big stack of ballasts, which go as transformers. A bit of hardware, which I've valued at $10. Now, I think I'll probably ask $5 each for these. They're quite common ceiling hangers. They're Bakelite, they're Clipsal, they're Australian made, and they're in good condition. They'll actually wash up fine. But I've just allowed $10 for the lot. You know, I'll put all the brass hardware in a jar for brass. All the connectors will go in a jar, and there's just general hardware as well. And I do sell a lot of that through the shop. Of course, we also had our motors from the fans. I'm going to hang on to the chain because I will be hanging lights in the shed, so I didn't even write that down. Let's move across to the notepad. Total return of around about $130. It took me about 2 hours, but that's still pretty good. And I would do it quicker if I didn't have to film, of course. The motors were a bit better priced than what I first quoted when I pulled apart the fans. So they're $1.28 a kilo at the moment. The hardware 10, I just told you that. We had $24 worth of the ballast and $54 of extruded aluminium. And you can see the other prices there. So pretty good return. Certainly worth picking up. Certainly worth pulling apart. I enjoy pulling stuff apart in the shed during the days. It gives me a chance to catch up on a few of my other YouTube favourites that I like to watch, or have the radio going. It's relaxing. It's almost therapeutic, and we're tallying up some good dollars. I do have these fluoro tubes to get rid of. Now, I think they're all relatively new. They are the old fluoro types, they're not LED. But, you know, I could probably take them to the shop and give them away for free. I'm sure someone would probably still use them. But as I mentioned at the start of the video, there is a proper box out at the transfer station to have these properly recycled. So perhaps that might be where they go. I don't have space in the shop to just fill it up with free stuff. So there we go, and there goes my day in the shed. I've actually enjoyed doing this. As I said, it was only about 2 hours or so actually scrapping, but of course there's a lot of mucking around and moving stuff out of the van, and now I've got to allocate stuff to various piles, so it takes a lot of time. But it's all about recycling. I've kept it out of the landfill. They probably wouldn't have put the lights straight into the tip. They would have put them with the recycling or the scrap metal. But I've got some pretty good value out of here. I'm going to make sure the tubes go to the right recycling spot and not get smashed. I'm going to add this to my lot to take to Melbourne at some stage, so it's going to increase my bottom line. So it's a win-win all round. The haul are very happy. They didn't even have to take the stuff out to the tip, as it turns up. You know, I just picked it up and they can wipe their hands of it. So good news all round. Thanks for watching. I hope you've got something out of it. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.